All right, let's jump right into today's explainer, where we're going to unpack a financial mystery that is honestly unfolding in apartments all across the country. Picture this. We're in Austin, Texas. The morning alarm goes off, and it's instantly followed by a DoorDash notification and the digital chime of a credit card swipe. Our main guy today is 29-year-old Kevin Carter. Kevin is just kicking off his day with a caramel cold brew. But what's totally wild here is that this coffee isn't actually a beverage. It's being financed emotionally. He opens up his banking app on his phone, hoping for a miracle but bracing for an absolute disaster.
Now, let's get some facts straight. Kevin makes $92,000 a year. By almost any metric you look at, that is a fantastic annual salary. I mean, it's the kind of income that's supposed to provide stability, savings, and total peace of mind. On paper, Kevin is doing absolutely everything right. He's a well-paid professional who realistically shouldn't have a single financial worry in the world.
But here is what Kevin actually sees staring back at him on his screen. $14.82. Just sit with that for a second. The absolute comedic contrast between a $92,000 salary and this shockingly low bank account balance. Somehow, despite his amazing income, Kevin financially resembles a raccoon fighting for survival behind a Taco Bell, and that right there is the core mystery we are digging into today. How on earth does someone make nearly six figures and end up with the financial cushion of a college student on a Tuesday before payday?
Well, Kevin's immediate reaction to this disaster is pure, distilled modern coping. He stares at the screen, takes this deep, shaky breath, and literally tells himself, okay, technically that's still double digits. It's ridiculous, right? But it perfectly captures the sarcastic, almost sitcom-style reality of modern financial struggles. It's funny for sure, but it's also kind of tragic, because Kevin represents millions of Americans who are just living in this state of constant, low-grade financial denial. So, how does it happen? It starts with his morning routine. Before Kevin even touches grass for the day, capitalism has already touched Kevin. His morning goes exactly how economists fear. He grabs his phone and boom, he's immediately bombarded with limited time offer and flash sale notifications. Within minutes, he drops $9 on that caramel cold brew and another $14 on a gourmet breakfast sandwich. Enter his super practical friend Marcus, who just looks at him and goes, "Dude, you know groceries exist, right?" Kevin's defense, he claims he's building convenience, but as Marcus brilliantly points out, he's actually just building bankruptcy with whipped cream.
The psychology behind Kevin's empty bank account is actually fascinating. Listen, humans rarely go broke from one giant dramatic purchase. Like, nobody accidentally buys a yacht. They go broke through invisible spending. This is the whole foundational problem with Kevin's habits. It's the process of draining your accounts through tiny, seemingly harmless emotional spending choices that just get repeated constantly. A $9 coffee here, a $14 sandwich there, an Uber ride because he was running 5 minutes late. These tiny purchases for convenience completely snowball into this giant monster of total financial destruction. Kevin tells himself, "I deserve this," so often it might legally qualify as a subscription service.
And this brings us to a massive psychological trap that Kevin, and honestly, let's be real, most of modern America, secretly believes: the salary illusion. Kevin operated under this massive assumption that once he landed that good-paying job, once he hit that magical income bracket, all of his financial stress would just disappear into thin air. He thought wealth was just an automatic byproduct of a high salary. But as his $14 balance hilariously proves, an income isn't wealth. An income is just a tool. And Kevin, he is using his tool very, very poorly.
Which reveals exactly why the salary illusion is so dangerous. The absolute second Kevin's income increased, he didn't increase his savings, no way. Instead, he upgraded his life faster than Netflix raises its subscription prices. Boom, newest iPhone. Boom, a standing desk treadmill he'll literally use twice. LED Galaxy lights, AirPods Max, the whole shebang. He completely equated making more money with fundamentally needing more expensive things just to validate his new status.
But look, Kevin doesn't exist in a vacuum. He is heavily influenced by the world around him. Enter the character of Tiffany, who perfectly represents the whole social media influencer ecosystem. Tiffany is online posting about how her morning routine literally changed her life. And of course, that routine naturally includes a $120 protein powder, a $300 dedicated skincare fridge, and a gold-plated water bottle. Kevin washes this stuff and legitimately turns to Marcus to ask if he should buy a moon-shaped productivity lamp. Marcus, playing the grounded voice of reason, has to remind him, "Kevin, you need a savings account, not a moon-shaped lamp." Social media totally normalizes this incredibly irrational spending, making it look like just baseline adult behavior. And that brings us to the ultimate trap: lifestyle inflation. When Kevin's salary goes up, his savings completely flatline. Because the more money he earns, the more normal, expensive things start feeling. A luxury suddenly transforms into a baseline necessity. This completely explains why people making six figures still hyperventilate when it's time to pay their rent. They haven't built wealth. They've just built a much more expensive, high-maintenance version of being broke. Right as Kevin is busy justifying his lifestyle inflation, he meets his greatest enemy. Just imagine the shadowy figure stepping out of the fog. He's wearing a suit completely made of receipts, and he's got an APR percentage literally glowing red on his chest. This is the credit card villain. The villain leans in and whispers the most toxic logic possible to justify Kevin's impulses. He says, "Wouldn't future you handle this purchase beautifully?" And Kevin, totally disconnected from reality, nods along. He's thinking, yeah, future Kevin sounds super financially stable. Meanwhile, Marcus is screaming from the sidelines, he is not! Guided right along by the credit card villain, Kevin discovers what is undeniably the most dangerous sentence in all of modern finance. It's only $30 a month. Instead of looking at the terrifying total cost of concert tickets or new sneakers or a giant TV, Kevin just starts breaking his entire life down into micropayments. Next thing you know, he gets attacked by 30 different subscription services, all pulling a seemingly insignificant amount from his checking account. But here's the reality check. When you stack 30 different $30 charges, you are quietly draining your absolute financial life force.
Let's dig into the behavioral science here for a second. Credit cards themselves aren't inherently evil, but tap-to-pay psychology fundamentally rewires human behavior. The phenomenon is actually super simple. Swiping a card, or just tapping your phone against a glowing terminal, does not feel like losing money. It completely removes the painful friction of actually parting with physical cash. It's this digital magic trick that leads straight down the pipeline to consumer debt. The villain is constantly telling Kevin that minimum payments build character, and Marcus, who is practically pulling his hair out at this point, has to remind him that is absolutely not how math works.
So, realizing his cash is doing a disappearing act, Kevin decides it's time to fix all his problems by getting rich quickly. He makes this disastrous pivot into investing after watching some random, wildly overly energetic finance guru on TikTok yelling, "This stock could 10x." Now, Kevin openly admits he understands absolutely nothing about what this company actually does. But emotionally, he's totally all in. He desperately wants to shortcut. And what's the result of emotional, totally unresearched investing? Pure panic. Kevin throws his money in, and almost immediately the market drops by a tiny everyday amount, -2%. Honestly, it's the kind of completely normal daily fluctuation that happens literally all the time. But Kevin, who is already running on emotional fumes and a $14 bank balance, spirals into an absolute panic. He's yelling that the economy is collapsing. Marcus just sighs, shakes his head, and says, "Dude, that's called Tuesday."
Marcus steps in with some seriously grounded advice here. He compares this chaotic investing to microwave wealth, trying to get rich quickly, which just leads to high panic and burned edges. Instead, Marcus advocates for crock-pot wealth. It's boring, it's slow growth, but it is incredibly powerful and most importantly reliable. Of course, Kevin absolutely hates this advice, primarily because he hates how financially wise it sounds when all he really wants is a magical instant fix.
Then the rent notification finally hits his phone. Kevin looks at his nearly empty account and genuinely asks, wait, where did all my money go? When you break it down, it's shocking. His cash isn't going to housing or utilities. It is completely dominated by emotional cold brews and food delivery, subscriptions and impulse shopping, and influencer-driven purchases. That tiny remaining slice, that's actual survival. Kevin didn't lose his money in one dramatic fire. He lost it through tiny decisions that felt utterly harmless in the exact moment he made them. Which brings us to this emotional, brutally honest turning point. Marcus delivers the harsh but incredibly necessary truth that finally cuts right through Kevin's delusions of a high salary saving him. Marcus looks him straight in the eye and tells him, "You don't have an income problem, you have a habits problem." Kevin, literally clutching his $14 breakfast sandwich, replies that somehow that feels even more offensive. But honestly, it's exactly what he needs to hear. Because making $92,000 a year is totally useless if your habits cost $93,000. So what should you really take away from this explainer? It's the reality of the macro environment we are all operating in right now, the modern consumer trap. Listen, most people aren't financially irresponsible because they are stupid. Not at all. They are overwhelmed and they are exhausted. We are constantly surrounded by targeted algorithms and apps entirely designed to normalize spending. Every single notification on your phone is fighting for your attention, and every brand is fighting for your impulse. Modern financial struggles are often the intended result of an ecosystem that is quite literally engineered against you. And just as Kevin starts to process this massive realization, his phone screen lights up with a brand new notification while he's scrolling online. Buy now,
Pay Later Approved. Kevin slowly hovers his finger over the button. He's got this dangerous glimmer in his eye as he whispers, "Wait, future Kevin pays for this?" The credit card villain slowly smiles from the shadows, welcoming Kevin to his true American consumer era, while Marcus is just screaming in the background for him to stop. Does he enter his financial villain era? I'll leave you with that provocative thought about your own digital spending habits. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and seriously, stay aware of your invisible spending.